Thank you everyone for coming today. So we're going to now interview Safwan Adam, who's sitting here. So I'm from the Bay HQ. He's just doing a quick phone call in the meantime. Busy guy. So what the Bay HQ is, it's a community of British Asian entrepreneurs. As you might know, there's a lot of Asians around who've done well in franchising space. So here's one of them, and we're just going to showcase what he's done. And we try to connect different people as well and help them to get their funding and get started. So, Saf, great to have you here. We both actually live 10 minutes away from each other in London, and we both drove up here to interview here, said. So, Saf, like, if you let everybody know, like, what got you into franchising in the first place?
So I done an aeronautical engineering degree. Couldn't find a job in 2011. It was very difficult. Always been interested in business, but there was no one around to mentor me for business, and franchising felt like the way to kind of go. Went to South Africa, like we spoke about, learned about business. Learned Nando's was a franchise, which was never in Portuguese, and it was a South African brand, which was mind blown. And tried to get a Nando's in South Africa until my dad told me I'll get shot because of my personality and had to come back. And now we came to the UK, wanted to find a franchise brand that was established, that was quite transparent, that would help me grow fast, and I got into CEX.
Yeah, so what made you pick CEX as your first brand? How many people already have a franchise here? We've got one there. So is everybody kind of looking right now to get into their first one? So it'd be really great for you to share like what made you pick CEX as your first one and why it was attractive to you.
I can't sell sand to the Arabs or the ice to the Eskimos. I'm really bad at sales, right? I'm not that guy that goes on The Apprentice and win it. I won't even get to that stage. But I know that I can operate. I know that I can serve people. I know customer service. So I was looking for a brand that was busy, that kind of bought the customers, and that was growing. And and the customers come to me. I'd kind of do a great job at that, and then the repeat would keep coming. CX had that, and then it was about, okay, everyone goes into food franchising. Practically everyone goes F&B. I looked at a few F&Bs, went around, and some of them are transparent, some of them not. I have a limitation where I can only do halal food. I can't do alcohol, so that kind of ruled out half the brands. I looked at my choices. I love tech, and CEX was quite transparent with the sales. So they talked about all the sales, all the rents, all the P&Ls of every single store. And I went around the other way. I went around interviewing franchisors as opposed to franchisors interviewing me. And when I was speaking to these guys, CX seemed to be the only one receptive to that. They wanted to answer my questions. They wanted to be absolutely transparent. They wanted to talk to me and tell me how great the brand was and not oversell and not undersell. Some guys felt like, oh yeah, we're here. If you want us, take us. If you don't want us, we don't really care. We've got 100 franchisees lined up. Some of them kind of went, we make £10 million a year kind of stuff. And, they probably had one branch or something. So that's why CX made so much sense. And I guess that's why CX.
And then once you got started as well, you grew it to a few stores quite quickly. And that surprised a lot of people who didn't expect that of you, right?
Yeah, so when I started CX, they kind of said to me that you can't get a franchise. You're a fresh grad. You don't know how to manage people. You've got no experience in managing people. So we don't think you can do this. You don't think you're capable of running a franchise. And that was like September 2010. And I went, no, I'm sure I can. And I would call them nearly every 3 days. I'd be like, no, please, come on, let's do something. It had become this thing where now I wanted it. It was like, the thing that you can't get. Do you know how they make those false cues so it looks busy kind of stuff? So I had to get it because I went through a 3-day interview. One, I done it at in the training center. There was 2 days in their actual a shop, and there was one where you met the head of franchising for the UK. So I had 2 approvals, but the training guy said, well, this guy can't do it. So eventually, after 2-3 months, the UK guy, I kept on calling him and I went, you know what? Let me just speak to one of the directors. Let me see what I can do. So they came back to me and challenged me. They said to me, listen, come work for us for free. Let's see how you do. And if you do well, then we'll give you a franchise. So I ended up working in the Tottenham Court Road branch, 6 days a week. The 7th day, I was on a double-decker bus looking for a franchise, looking for a location. And I worked for 1 year. I clocked around about probably 1,000 hours over the space of 6 months. And they were convinced I could run something. The growth happened because I had all that experience. By that time, we had already found one store, and we were already looking at the second, third. So the first day I opened the store, I wasn't at my opening. I was the franchise manager looking at my second store, and then I was looking at acquisition. And and my wife kills me for this because I don't know if you guys know Asian weddings. Asian weddings, as you know, they go on for a few weeks, right? I've opened my first store, about to get married now, midway through the year. Like, we're gonna get married, have my engagement, and just on the week before 1 year anniversary, we've just finalized the deal to take over one of the stores, which was Ilford. So I've done my wedding. I've had my wedding that weekend, and I'm in Ilford store. And then we called something a walima, which is another party a week later. And all that week we have occasions and people come around, and I'm just opening stores. And then I'm in my Dagenham store on the day of my wedding, in the morning, opening that store, and then end up at my wedding. So my wife always curses me for that. But that's how, you know. So we broke a record where we opened 3 stores within 12 months, and then we opened another 3. So it was quite rapid growth. And we were right time, right place. CX was on the right trajectory. We had the hunger and kind of fit.
You mentioned there as well how you went on the bus to find different locations. And for somebody who's trying to find their first franchise, that first location is make or break, right?
Yeah.
You get the wrong location, then all of a sudden you look like you're a bad operator.
Yeah.
And like, how did you pick that right location, or how do you go about that now as well?
So CX, the franchise manager, was fantastic. You know, we had Brian. Brian was amazing. And he had one rule: just point your finger and see how many people kind of walk past. And it was as simple as that, right? They just went, forget it. Go next to McDonald's, because kind of our customer base, or go put a finger and see how many people walk past over a minute. Do it maybe over a space of a day, like, morning, afternoon, evening. Do it weekends, do it weekdays, and understand and that. And if you're above like 30, you'll do good. If you're doing 45, you'll break every ceiling possible. So before I got to that, the reason I was on the top of a double-decker bus, because most London stores were it was saturated. I sat on a bus, kind of right in the front. Whatever street was busy, I kind of just jumped out. I went, let me do this footfall count. And then I'm quite analytical because of the engineering background and the maths background. So I would plot over, okay, this is this high street, at this time, this much footfall. At this time, this high street, this much footfall. And then I took that data and the kind of capture of the area, how many people live in the area, and kind of plotted kind of like a little algorithm kind of thing going on, but it wasn't really one, but yeah, my version of it.
And in those early days, like, what mistakes do you think you made, like, as you were just getting used to it and running that first franchise?
Running the first franchise, cash flow, massive. Yeah. Choosing your location, you're absolutely right. Choosing your location, just touching on that because that kind of addresses this. After doing all of that, I found one location, which was Brixton. No one wanted to open in Brixton. They thought they were going to get shot for a mobile phone or stabbed. Like, it was like, we're not going there, worst crime area ever. And I went, well, we kind of operate in South Africa. Crime is a business expense. I think I can do this. So I kind of got Brixton, about to sign heads of terms, etc. And franchisor came and went, sorry, mate, 2 miles away, this guy has got a franchise. He feels it's going to impede in his business. We don't want you to open. So although it kind of really, made me livid at the time, I was like, I spent all this time, but really gave me reassurances that the franchisor wasn't going to cannibalize. Yeah, that was the first challenge. The second challenge was cash flow. We had we buy and sell, so our customer base is the public. What that meant is CEX always gave £100 over what Apple was selling phones for. It was crazy. Franchisees, which we might come on to, franchisees thought, some, not all, don't want to, it's recorded, so I don't get cursed after. But some franchisees felt that it was a bit ridiculous to pay over because their margins, they wouldn't make, it was a loss leader, like it's like buying bread at the back of the supermarket. You're not going to make money out of it. And the franchisor, so I was in between a franchisee and the franchisor, kind of, they only relied on the cash flow they had on the day from the safe. So I was in between like 4 or 5 stores, right dead in the middle. And they kind of went, well, I'm buying, I'm going to follow the model, And I ended up buying, and I bought the most amount the entire network did. So my cash flow was hit so hard. It was like, couldn't pay rents, couldn't pay some bills. Luckily, again, CX fantastic. They kind of allowed us to delay some of those, gave us a bit of credit because they saw that we were following the model. But what that did, that catapulted me, right? It was a catalyst because I didn't have to do local marketing. All these stores, without realizing what they were doing, they were sending all the customers to me and telling them, well, there's a new CX store in town. Why don't you go to that one? Because they're buying. And that kind of really made me hit the ground running kind of stuff.
So you've done multiple different franchises as well, right? So what made you diversify? Why didn't you just stick with one?
A couple of reasons, and I hope my brother doesn't watch me. But
you can take off the record if you want to get it cut on the video.
So my brother graduated, joined the business. We were both running it together. Kept on butting heads a bit, and we went, oh, you know what? Let's just do something different. Not only that, it was, to be quite honest, logically, it didn't make sense for both of us to do it. We had two brains. Let's diversify. Made a lot of money in CX. And we wanted to kind of do something that was more meaningful instead of just making money. We were young, had this thing about, oh yeah, we just don't want to be these guys that have got a lot of money, driving nice cars, nice house. We kind of give something back. So we ended up getting into home care. And these shows, I don't know what it is this year, these shows, every year there's like a little bit of a theme. You know, one year it'll be food, next year it'll be this. So that year it was just care franchises everywhere. So we went around looking at care franchises. And similar thing, Ken, who's an amazing franchisor, he basically went, well, you guys are too young. How are you guys going to... All my franchisees are just come out of work, retired, made their money in their careers, and now they're thinking of franchising. How are you guys going to do this? Well, no, Ken, trust me, we can do this. So Ken kind of appreciated how we worked as a family, how we worked as a network. He always says to me, the first time he met me, I say to him, that, oh, you know what, we got to go home and tell our dad what the hell we did for the day and what the sales are. So he'd always say, you know, I love that about you guys, and that's why I gave you a franchise. And again, we've done really, really well there. So we diversified into that. And then it's kind of an itch. You always want to do something that you haven't done, which is kind of stupid because you always fish where the fish are fishing. So we wanted to do F&B because everyone was doing F&B. CX had stagnated a bit because everyone, after our growth, everyone kind of was growing at the same time. And there was all these locations locked up. We didn't have any locations left. And if we did invest the same amount of money, we'd be in small tertiary locations. It didn't make sense. So we ended up looking at F&B. GDK had just come into the country, opened 2 stores, and we ended up we didn't want that barrier of, oh yeah, fighting about locations, trying to kind of go, no, I want that location. No, why are you giving it to him? I can't believe you gave it to him. Oh, that's so close to me. And we didn't want to do all of that. So we kind of locked up 20 locations, and we went, okay, we're just now going to do GDK, and we're going to smash it out. And that's kind of where that diversification came. Then we went into a bit of donuts and coffee shops because that's what everyone was doing. And to us, what we knew is that CX, when I opened my first store, we'd done around about 30 to 40,000 pounds a week. So we knew large numbers, right? And we always, every time we spoke to a franchisor, they were talking about, oh, we make $4,000 a week, $5,000 a week. And at that time, we became part of what HSBC calls the super group. So it's all second generation franchisees that have got 50 of this, 100 of this, 1,500 staff. And we're there with our epoxy, 6 stores. But we're learning, right? It's all about learning. It's all about receiving. It's all about knowledge. So they're going to us, oh yeah, Starbucks makes an average around about $6,000. I thought, oh wow, I didn't know you could run a business that makes $6,000 a week. So we thought, oh, if that's possible, let's now get into coffee shops. And then that's where we went into coffee shops, went to a bit of an Indian restaurant niche. And then we diversified outside of franchising, but that's a different story, I guess.
So you obviously got into franchising so young. Was there anything that you wish you knew, like right in those early days? So let's say people in this crowd, right? They've probably done their research. What's something that maybe they're missing that you can maybe shine a light on for them that they should think about?
With all due respect, everyone's got targets, right? Everyone's got to make you open a store because that's what the franchise manager's there for. So make sure that, at least for your first one, because a lot of people try and do the first one, at least for your first one, make sure that it's the right thing, because otherwise you're just going to be bogged down in trying to sort that one out. Like you said, oh, bad franchisee, doesn't know how to run the model, it's you, it's not me, and stuff like that happens. We're all human, right? So make sure your first one is a smasher. After secondary, tertiary can be a bit, there one can be a loss, whatever. But your first one's going to be a smasher because then the franchisor will support your growth. You have enough cash flows to support your growth. You feel more confident, all that kind of stuff. It's very important. It's very important that some franchises, what they say is what you kind of, what it is. So it's important that you go speak to other franchisees in the network. But it works both ways, right? I won't say the brand which one it was, but when I got into that brand, I went around to franchisees and I went, "Oh, what do you think?" The guy went, "Listen, don't you dare invest. This is a rubbish brand. Can't believe you did it. It's absolutely rubbish. Why don't you give me your 200 grand? I'll invest here for you." And I don't really roll with that brand. Do you understand? And then sometimes it's the other way around, where the franchises are amazing, but it's absolute rubbish because they don't want to tee off the franchise. Also, you got to be very careful that if you're being told that it's doing £10,000 a week, it's doing £10,000 a week. And you're just not getting sold the best. You're looking at the best, the worst, the middle, and you're taking everything into account. Data is very important, and you need to make sure data is king, basically. I think that those are the two things that, although I knew it, over time you get confident and you don't weigh in it sometimes as much as you should. And you kind of just let it lapse a bit. But just remember those should be your fundamentals, I think.
So thank you so much for that. We're going to take some questions from the audience now as well.
In between,
yeah, go on. You can go for the first one first.
Oh, wait.
I
think I might have forgotten
it. First question was, why did you pick the other franchise? So one was care homes was for good society. Then you said,
I should have emailed you.
You should have emailed me then. You should have.
And the other one you said,
I can't believe you just met me now and you don't have my email address. You didn't have it 2 days ago.
But the other one's almost about following the trends, right? With the coffee shops and
but it's not only trends. So it's about learning the difference between F&B, service-based business, transactional business, all that kind of stuff, right? So CX, cash flow, again, you're always pumping your money back in. When you're buying a new store, you've saved up 250,000 pounds. You think you're the king of the jungle, and then you pour it back into buy a new store, and then you're starting from zero again. And it's an asset-rich business, but it's a depreciating asset-rich business when you buy shops. Service business is purely cash flow. What you earn is what you get. That's quite important. And then food is. Do you know what's really weird? Sorry, it's just coming to my head. What's really weird is that there's more pilferage in a food business than there is in a tech business. So you've got these £500 phones that no one dares to kind of, take. But then everyone loves a bit of a Coke 10 times a day. It's crazy. Sorry. But yeah, all those things kind of matter. And then the environmental thing.
Yeah, so the second part of that was about how much of it is price-based in terms of in your stores, and how much you think it is around the mission and what you're doing and trying to do something good for society. Do you think that attracts customers or not?
I think it's not a decision factor. I don't think people go. I do think there are people that do that, but if you're looking at masses and just trends, I don't think people go, "Oh crap, that place is environment friendly, that's where I'm going." But it helps tip people over the line in terms of your competition, right? So I don't think people come to CEX because we're recycling phones only, as opposed to going to Apple direct. I think price has a factor. I think being able to mitigate the money with your old stuff has a factor, but it helps that it's recycling and helping the environment.
The gentleman in the front row there asked about how important is a team in order to keep growing, right? Because you've got to get the right team in place so that you can then move on to other stores.
That's must be the secret.
Yeah, so I went through that because I geared my team up to do 10, 20 stores. And I had a massive back-end operation. I had my operations managers, and I was anticipating this, gold rush to come in of stores.
Yeah.
And what happened is it didn't go to plan because there wasn't locations, landlords, blah, 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 blah. And it just became a heavy bill.
Yeah.
And I was eating into my cash flow, my profits, etc. So I went through that journey of building this amazing team and top heavy. But I realized that, actually, as long as you're doing the job and going back to basics, it should be more reactive. And then add a tech piece on top that is much more cost efficient to manage your team, and then backfill in that sense. And that, I know franchisors are going to be very angry with that, but that's basically how I kind of did it.
Yeah.
The question there was about how you've got multiple franchises. Is the plan to just keep growing them, or have you got an exit strategy where you exit some of them and focus your efforts elsewhere, or what's your kind of longer term thinking there?
Yeah, I think we do, except for CEX, because it's like nostalgia. That's kind of, I went through a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But generally, that is the strategy. That okay, because there's two reasons to that. One, because it makes business sense that you can grow a group of stores. Some franchisors will allow you to kind of sell it to a PE, float it, whatever the hell it is. But there's also the fact that because I was quite young, it's learning, right? Instead of taking inputs, I kind of just took plunges. I went, oh, we'll work it out. And it kind of lost me a lot of money, but I learned. And I paid a heavy price for university, I guess. But that's very important. So exit is important. So now when we invest into a business, it's important for us to know what is the exit, because the worst case scenario is what. So if I go buy, I don't know, any franchise, I'm going to think, what is the demand for this franchise? If everything goes really bad, do you think I can flip it to someone else? Someone else is going to be interested in taking it. If things go really well, do you think I'm going to be able to kind of create a group and kind of go, here you go, there's a group, and is that possible? So that is a decision factor, 100%. And I learned that over time, I guess.
So 3 biggest mistakes that franchisees have made when they started out, whether it's your mistakes or mistakes you've seen other people make.
My mistakes, I think we covered some of them. One was cash flow. Didn't keep my finger on the pulse as much as I should have. Location, some we chose bad, some we chose good. And I guess just trusting without research is a massive one as well. In terms of other people, I keep hearing franchisors say that follow the model, and it's quite important. If you thought you knew better, then you shouldn't be buying franchises to go do it yourself. So do follow the model. If you don't agree with something, by all means, go challenge your franchisor, but follow the model and try to get it changed. And there might be wisdom in what they're doing, and they'll advise you better. Or they might say, actually, you know what? We never thought of this. Thank you very much. And they'll try to change it. But follow the model, and as long as you follow the model, it will be the easiest path to kind of success.
So I think we're going to have to wrap up there.
Yep.
But thanks so much for coming on, Saf. And just some of the key notes I think there is like location is very important.
Yep.
And then it's also taking the time to look through the data and not just making a decision based on your gut, but actually looking through it. So it's easy to take a plunge early on, but of course some quick lessons, but also some mistakes that maybe you could have avoided. And the diversification piece is just to make sure that as something gets saturated, you don't keep trying to put all your energy into something where actually there's opportunity elsewhere. But thank you again so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks, Douglas.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.